What do you do confidently now that made you feel weird in the past? So many things. Getting older and caring less about what people who don't matter to me think of me has been extremely liberating. I've also learned that most people aren't actually paying attention when you do something stupid or embarrassing. People are usually off in their own little worlds. I was a very self-conscious and eccentric child, but adult me has fully embraced my weird side, and it's wonderful. I am who I am meant to be, and I'm surrounded by amazing people. Most people aren't actually paying attention when you do something stupid or embarrassing. People are usually off in their own little worlds. Many, in fact, are probably reliving their own stupid and embarrassing moments in their head and cringing at them. As a 36-year-old male who's been married for 14 years and has 2 kids, I cannot stress how important this is. Not only for the sake of others you're in a relationship with, but also your own mental health. My natural reaction is to suppress any negative feelings and not talk to anyone about them. Well, 2018 was an extremely difficult year for my wife and me. We experienced a lot of unexpected loss. Estranged parent dying, family member committing suicide, losing our first dog, friends moving away, and much more. I never really processed the grief, and never discussed any of it with my wife. This made her feel distant and it plunged me into depression. Having never experienced depression before, it took a long time for me to recognize it. I've been seeing a therapist for almost a year now, and it's helping. I've found I'm at my best and my marriage is strongest when I process things verbally. My kids also benefit because they see a grown man talking about how he feels. It's equally important for my daughter as it is my son. Don't be afraid of upsetting anyone. Think about this: if they get upset because you feel a certain way, most likely, they're either too emotionally fragile, or they don't care enough to value your feelings. Those types of people should be kept at arm's length. I had a buddy ask me the other day how I'm doing after I've just had a string of close friends commit suicide. I'm like, I'm not sure. I just feel tired and ineffective. And he says, depression. I getcha. I was like, oh shit, you're right. That's what this. It's thankfully been over 10 years since I felt like this in my late teens/early 20s. I forgot that depression isn't just sadness, it's a feeling of hopelessness and apathy. Paint/draw and then share it with strangers. I did not grow up with art and had absolutely no confidence in attempting it. During our quarantine this spring, I taught myself how to watercolor and draw birds and am now selling prints and stickers and donating 100% of the profits to bird conservation groups. I just love birds. Go out in public and be around crowds. When I first started using a wheelchair, I was hyper-aware of people staring at me, avoiding getting near me, or acting strange when interacting with me. Decades of being a wheelchair user have desensitized me to all that. Hardly notice now. Thank God to hear this. Due to a procedure, I was temporarily in a wheelchair, and boy do I have even more respect for anyone on wheels. I felt like I was in the biggest fishbowl just getting groceries. I was a total pariah and stared at, and exactly the same as you said, how weirded out people got talking to me. On the flip side, everybody ran to get doors for me or carry something I was perfectly capable of carrying. So glad to hear the awkwardness goes away. I had to be in a wheelchair at EDC, and I got so many more hugs and candy than I've ever gotten before. The worst part though was the way people seemed to pity me. Don't know how many times I got told how brave I was. I hate it when people say you're so brave, like yesterday at a doctor's appointment I was in a wheelchair and nurses standing around would tell me I'm so brave. I also had to get a full body scan and had lay still for 10 minutes and they would keep telling me I'm so brave. I had to get in for like a million other times, so I just sat there normally, but she kept telling me I'm so brave. I'm tempted to go to the dictionary and cut out and burn the word brave. Say no. A lot of people struggle with saying no. I used to struggle with it as well. I got a lot of advice to be unapologetic. You don't owe anyone anything. You don't have to give a reason to say no. That is stupid advice. That is obviously going to harm your relationships. Instead, I realized that most people are reasonable. I present my case in a way that the other person can understand and explain why I need to say no. Almost everyone understands and does not want to put you in a difficult situation. If the other person is not reasonable, there is no point explaining further. Then you just gotta say no. But you need to try to explain first. Thank you for this. I still struggle tremendously with saying no, and it's got me into things in the past that I look at now and regret. I try to tell myself, like you mentioned, that you don't owe anyone anything. But I just can't help but to be scared to hurt someone's feelings. It took my best friend's mom sitting me down and telling me that it was okay to tell people no and that I really needed to start. I never said no to anyone, often putting myself out or at a disadvantage in doing so. I was in my mid-20s when I realized that many of my peers were thriving and I was so far behind because of how many important things I put off or neglected to help other people over the years. I remember being 15, trying to buy condoms for the first time. I wasn't even sure if I legally could buy them. Is 16 in the UK. I was still in my school uniform and everything. My friends were giggling and both trying to make me feel better and also poking a little bit of fun. But although I was embarrassed, I told myself if you're not mature enough to buy condoms, you're not mature enough to have sex, and obviously, I wanted to have sex, so I forced myself to put on a brave, confident face and just bought them. I went to the counter by myself. Didn't get ID'd, so I assume it's not illegal to sell condoms to minors. The woman could probably see through my facade and just didn't say anything, and was totally normal. After my friends were like, how did you do that? You're so brave. I couldn't do that. Lol. It's definitely not illegal to sell condoms to minors. If it was, they would just have sex anyway but then get pregnant, STDs etc., which is definitely worse than them just buying condoms under rock. I'm the fat girl in the gym. For my entire adulthood, I would hold back my workouts, for fear of jiggling, sweat, boobs bouncing, heavy breathing. I get red in the face with any exertion. Finally, I got some quality clothes that fit properly, really good bras that keep the girls in check, and now I'm really proud of how hard I work. I sweat through my clothes every workout. My hair gets soaked. I love leaving drips underneath my heavy bag. Now my coaches use me as an example of what to do if you want higher intensity in the exercise we are doing. I love it. Only 2 more hours until class starts. I used to be super self-conscious going to the gym. I'd always be the smallest guy there surrounded by a bunch of juiced out meatheads. They're putting up multiple 45-pound plates while I'm struggling with 25 pounds. Eventually I realized those meatheads actually encourage you for being there, and they had to start somewhere too, and chances are if you need some advice on something, they're more than willing to help. I quite often see bigger people out running or cycling when I'm on my bike, and they're always going slowly and sweating loads and red-faced and stuff, and I really want to give them a big smile and a cheer because it's easy to work out when you're in shape already, but it's so hard when you're not, and here they are, out in the world working up a sweat, and I'm really, genuinely just massively proud of them for doing that. I worry they'll think I'm being sarcastic, and that would be worse than me doing nothing at all, so I don't do it. But anyone reading this who is that person, I'm really fucking proud of you. Keep going, you're doing amazingly. Dance. Whenever the opportunity arose through puberty and early adult life, I'd just be standing in the corner, too shy to do anything and caring a lot about how I looked to people. Sidestepping shyly if I felt forced. To the point of getting nervous about the fact that I wasn't doing anything. Then, one weekend at a music festival, something clicked that felt completely out of the blue, and I started flailing my arms around and making the dumbest moves to the sound of the music, and I had the best time in my life. If there is a party, I'm dancing. All night, with everyone and anyone. And it looks like shit, but I'll be damned if my white ass isn't having the best time. Being out in the woods. I was born and raised in NYC, so even though I really wanted to experience these things, it always seemed so inaccessible and scary. But one afternoon, after a shitty day, I just said fuck it, did some research and found a trail that was within an hour of the city and for beginners. I wasn't able to finish the trail that day, it felt like it went on forever, and I chickened out thinking I would get lost. But I still enjoyed the experience and decided I would do it again. It wasn't until a year later I was able to fully hike a trail and get the payoff of the amazing views. I got really into it and learned more skills like navigating and wilderness survival over time. Now, even though I am a born and raised city girl, I am also an avid hiker, camper, kayaker, backpacker, and overall feel more at home in the mountains than I do in this concrete jungle. Thank you for the award. I'm super proud for my first award on Reddit to be a Tree Hug Award. Smile, and anyone reading thinking they want to try outdoor sports, please do. The planet needs more advocates to protect its beauty. Just brush up on the policy of leave no trace before heading out there to minimize our impact on these beautiful places. When in doubt, just remember, take only pictures and leave only footprints.